Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines we have for you. Barry Silbert resigns. We're going to cover it. We also got this, the biggest geopolitical event that could absolutely be the catalyst for U.S. stablecoin bill passing in the first quarter of 2024. We got that and so much more. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. By the way, we're also going to be covering the food supply. They're coming for our food supply. Who's coming for it? We're going to talk about it in the Freedom Zone. Join us in the link underneath the video. Right now, it's $1.74 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is off by 1.2%. Bitcoin, 42,500 plus. Right now, $2,237 and change for Ethereum. 91.1 billion market cap for Tether. We got news on Tether today, too. 62 cents per XRP at the number 6 spot. Off by 2% in the 24-hour. Up by 3.3 on the 7-day. Range of price very quickly, 0.6187 on the bottom, 0.6472 on top. So the range is open. It's a little wider today than normal with XRP. Maybe XRP wants to go for a little jog today. We wouldn't have a problem with that, would we? No, I don't think we would. And the news today, before we get into the main heart of the video here, Grayscale said Barry Silbert resigned as chairman and will be replaced by Mark Schiffke on January 1st. Now, we know that there is trouble there, and Barry's got some trouble in his sales, so we're going to see how all this shakes out. We will bring it to you. This is not unexpected, but we'll see what else comes of this as it develops. Now, Miles Franklin, ladies and gentlemen, the home of precious metals. If you want precious metals, it's Miles Franklin right here underneath the video. But here's what you got to do. Use the email that I provide, and in the subject box, put DIG Gold, D-I-G Gold. And I think you're going to find this video is one of the greatest reasons why you may decide to go ahead and put some precious metals in your portfolio. DIG Gold in the subject box. You're going to love the prices. Now, here we go right here. This is a clip from Representative French Hill talking about the need and necessity for standards for stablecoin legislation. Take a listen to this quick clip here.
Yeah, great question. And look, because of the time lost in the House due to the Republican fight over who the Speaker of the House was going to be, it really placed us behind this fall because of the need to complete the appropriations work. And that means that we didn't have the ability to plan floor time for digital assets bill or the farm bill for that matter. So that's why I think this is an important shift to early 2024. That's point one. Point two, it's very interesting on getting the votes on the floor. On the Republican side, I've worked with my colleagues to educate them about what is a central bank digital currency. What does that even mean? What is it? And how does it have anything to do with a stablecoin bill or a fit-for-purpose FIT 21 regulatory framework bill? Because there's great confusion there if you're not in the loop on this, if you're not thinking about it. So on the Republican side, we want members to see that this is moving American innovation forward, Web3 forward, blockchain forward in a completely, I think, balanced approach that doesn't in any way disadvantage the United States, and in fact gives us a continued advantage. Over on the Democratic side, as you see from Senator Warren, and you may have heard from Representative Caston, a tremendous emphasis on terror finance and I would say illegal or illicit finance evasion through the use of cryptocurrency or blockchain. And so on the Democratic side, it would be my view that we talk to members about satisfying them, letting them understand how both these bills contain strong AML, BSA approaches, and that like everything else in life, if you're in the regulatory framework, there's a much better chance for you to effectively surveil and understand what's happening. And if you're voting against these bills because you think cryptocurrency provides some sort of advantage to Hamas, you're making a huge mistake. Because to not have a good regulatory framework here, a good stablecoin regulatory framework, that is what's going to advantage illicit finance. So I think on the Democratic side, I'll let Jim respond too, but on the Democratic side, I think law and order, AML-BSA is an important component, and over on the Republican side, who do not support a banking at the Fed central bank digital currency, that they understand that these two things are not connected, right? I think those are some key points there.
I think they are very key points. And, I think we all understand the danger of a central bank digital currency could give so much centralized control to the government or private central bank like the Fed, right, that none of us want to see that particular approach happen. Now, let's take a look at this, because we know that there has been talk about the idea of a stablecoin bill in Q1 of 2024, which is just around the corner. And look at this. I want to remind everybody that we covered this back on December 18th. Tether revealed a partnership with the Secret Service and FBI in the letter to the U.S. Senate. Now, what's important to remind people about this is that I've said, will we see Tether be unwound, or will they just be brought underneath the prudential regulation of the U.S. government? Well, as it looks right now, it looks like they're taking stages to just bring it under control of a regulatory framework. Who knows how far it actually goes, right? But I'm reminding everybody that the United States Secret Service, that Tether is so proudly partnering with, was originally created to deal with counterfeit money. That was the reason for creating the United States Secret Service. Not all of this run around and protect leaders. That was another thing that was brought to the agency, right? But the reality here is that it was originally created to make sure counterfeit money could not happen. And that, I believe, is why we've seen the Secret Service partner with Tether. How deeply it goes, again, we don't know, but we are watching it closely. Ron Hammond says here, sharing this post from the block, legislative outlook in case you missed it. What headwinds does crypto legislation face in 2024? Ron Hammond simply says this: it might be different from what we're seeing now, but I think there is going to be some version of a stablecoin bill passed out of Congress in 2024. This is a massive, massive statement from Ron Hammond. It could look very, very different depending on the vehicle. Next week, Congress and crypto will break down 2024. Now, I can't wait for Ron Hammond's breakdown, because I have got a sneaking suspicion that Ron Hammond knows exactly what this different, very, very different bill could look like. And hopefully we will get a glimpse of that in the next post he shares. Here is the geopolitical reason why all of this is so important. And this conversation is now going to step beyond being a leader in the innovation race, because now it's also multifold in the point that you need to be a leader in the innovation financial race, because you need to do something about the unwinding of the petrodollar agreement that is happening rapidly. The U.S. is facing a major challenge as the petrodollar loses force. And it's losing force because we know that it is being dropped, and the introduction of using other dollars to trade over U.S. dollars, creating the de-dollarization movement globally, and a great demand for the Chinese yuan. You'll hear about that in a second as well. Right now, I want to play this clip from Jim Rickards, which is fantastic. Take a listen.
Is what I call the BRICS 11. That is the original 4 plus South Africa plus the 6 new members, including UAE, of course. Gold, and with particular emphasis on the role of the UAE. I have about 20 minutes to do this. I have 2 hours of material, so I better get started. So I want to start with history. Oh, sorry, go back. A little bit about the history of the BRICS. This is the picture of the leaders of the BRICS summit that was held in Johannesburg, South Africa, last August. You have Lula, Xi Jinping, Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, Prime Minister Modi, and on the right, that's not Vladimir Putin, that's Sergei Lavrov, who, of course, is the Russian foreign minister. Putin couldn't attend. He wanted to, but there's an arrest warrant out for him from the International Criminal Court, and Ramaphosa said, don't worry, we won't arrest you, but there could be NGOs and others who might, so he decided to make life easier for all concerned. But he participated by video. So I still don't have a 5-shot of the 5 leaders, but that's the best we can do. A little bit about the history of the BRICS. Before I jump into that, I want to start with not really an equation. I mean, it's expressed as an equation. It's really a bit of logic. If Plato was the father of philosophy, Aristotle was the father of logic. And this is this is called the transitive law. And very basically, you know, we probably all learned this in the 6th grade or something. If it's true that A equals B equals C, then A equals C. Again, a syllogism, but a good piece of logic. I want to suggest that this is the key to the future of the international monetary system. I'll come back to this logic at the end and explain why, but if we can just bear this in mind, it's actually a very important expression of what's going on with the BRICS. Notice what the BRICS are doing. They've copied the World Bank, and they've copied the IMF. They're duplicating the Bretton Woods structure on their own. A lot of this goes almost unnoticed, but these are very important initiatives.
And they're very important initiatives and concepts and how they're moving to understand why they're doing it. Take a listen here as he goes on to explain BRICS could become the new OPEC.
They're also building a fiber optic undersea telecommunications channel so they can bypass channels like SWIFT and other payments channels controlled by the West. So they're building their whole network financially, structurally, and in terms of physical infrastructure. And this has been going on for a long time. It's not as if the BRICS are making some headlines lately, but it's not as if they just woke up last year and said, oh, let's do something significant in the monetary system. They've been working on this for over 15 years. The big news, and of course this involves UAE and Dubai, is they added 6 members at the summit in South Africa in August. I think the formal accession process will take place January 1st, but 6 new countries. They're Argentina, Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Ethiopia. So I'm now calling it the BRICS 11. They haven't called themselves that. I mean, we have the G20 and the G7, et cetera. So the BRICS 11 seems like a good working title, particularly because they have a waiting list of 18 nations wanting to join. And I've listed them all here. I don't have to go through the whole list, but kind of highlight Bahrain, Mexico, Nigeria, a huge country, 90 million people, et cetera. Turkey, again, another very important economy. Venezuela, a big oil producer. So the waiting list could take the membership up to 25 to 30, not all at once, but in a period of years in the relatively near future. Not the waiting list, but just the BRICS 11, including UAE. It has 6 of the 10 largest oil producers in the world: Russia, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, China, Iran, and UAE. It has 4 of the 7 largest countries in terms of landmass, 30% of the Earth's dry surface, 50% of world grain production, 15% of the world's gold reserves. And I think it's important to realize that BRICS 11 is possibly the new OPEC. We all know that Russia was never a member of OPEC. Saudi Arabia and Russia obviously cooperate on oil pricing, but Russia was never a member. But here we have a new group, the BRICS 11, that includes Russia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Iran, and Brazil, all of which are major oil producers. So
that is the point, right? So not only you have almost half of the world's population, you got 80% of the world's oil production. Currently, right now, you're seeing the report further states here that trade between the two countries done in the Chinese yuan here. This will allow the Middle East countries to grant China a passageway of influence in the region. Due to this, there should be a shift in the global power. If you didn't read the article, and I did read the article, and this is the highlights from it, BRICS is making good on their word to drop the dollar for trade with China and the United Arab Emirates, making trade with the Chinese yuan. furthering the U.S. de-dollarization movement here, strengthening the Chinese yuan in regions it's not had a lot of strength. The UAE was one among 5 countries that were set to join the economic alliance at the end of the year. Will it be possible to shift the U.S. dollar power in favor of the BRICS currency, which is still to come? More on this as will be discovered in the coming year. We know that they're not ready to launch their own BRICS currency at this point. But the fact that they're moving to de-dollarize the U.S. dollar and start to trade in their own dollars inside the BRICS coalition is a massive move within itself, and obviously a precursor to the creation of a BRICS gold-backed currency, which has been discussed by Russia and China. Then we have this to wrap this up very quickly here. This is Mike Christo, and an RN and economist, and I like his viewpoints here. I want to run through this scenario because this really ties in the concept of what we're looking at here. What we're talking about with cryptocurrency, digital assets, stable coins, isn't just about the United States fighting to become and be a leader in the 4th Industrial Revolution. That is certainly a narrative, and a very valid narrative. But after what I've just shown you, it is that digital asset technology that will help propel the United States dollar, if done correctly, to remain the leader in the monetary system globally, on the global stage, I should say. To the dollar bulls and the dollar macro establishment, Mike Christo 8 says this: why would poor countries print their local currency to acquire dollar reserves, get a loan from the U.S. Treasury, if they can't use those dollars in the oil trade? No oil exporter that I know of is taking U.S. Treasury notes. The Federal Reserve is done. There is no Fed pivot coming. Now let's review. In August of 71, when Nixon ended the gold standard, which is what shored up the dollar strength as a world reserve currency, no one wants the dollar. Then in August 73, Kissinger put a gun to Saudi Arabia's head, saying you must sell oil in dollars in order for U.S. military protection. That is the arrangement we have watching be unwound as we speak. Voila, the petrodollar was born. Now the U.S. Treasury could export inflation, as they call it, by loaning out Treasury notes to poor countries who needed oil. The U.S. Treasury creates a dollar bond to sell to poor countries who need oil. Very profitable for the U.S. because the poor country currencies were not pegged to Saudi oil, where they needed dollars. And the U.S. Treasury bonds show up as a liability on poor countries' own Treasury balance sheet, where the poor country's Treasury Department printed their local currency by creating another asset, a bond. Via their banking and central banking network, they carried that created an asset for the U.S. Treasury balance sheet that allowed Janet Yellen to create a liability side in which financial assets were pumped by the U.S. Treasury exporting dollars. Those dollar bonds are the liability side of a poor country's balance sheet. This is what allows poor countries to get oil from Saudi Arabia. Mike Christo says, on the 5th of December, the OPEC peg to the dollar was removed. The dollar no longer has a monetary value in the international marketplace for oil because of the loss of the oil peg. I couldn't find an article that validated that point, so maybe this is his personal analysis of the dollar and the current state of the market. He says, now please tell me the value of the dollar if that peg has been lost, essentially. There's no longer pegged to oil, held as a liability to the Treasury Department balance sheet of poor countries. If the dollar can no longer be used to get OPEC oil, zero, the poor countries can't use the dollars through the carry trade to get oil anymore either. The dollar is now on parity to their local currency or of the poor country. So the dollar liability of a poor country's treasury balance sheet, known as reserves, has an intrinsic value of what? Zero? Then what is the value of the asset side of the U.S. Treasury created that those dollar bonds to export inflation? Zero? And due to the exchange rates, the U.S. Treasury has probably exported $100 trillion in dollar liabilities to poor countries to acquire oil, with a dollar that is no longer pegged to oil that countries can no longer use. The intrinsic value of that dollar is what? Zero? So you get the point here. And the point here for me is, even if the peg has not been lost completely, and even if that is just a personal analysis and summation of his assessment of this current market and the state of the dollar and the oil market, think of the fact that that could happen. Because the truth is, I just showed you the evidence of how BRICS is in fact moving towards such a scenario. How fast could such a scenario happen? This is why I firmly believe that XRP-Ledger could be the next thing to underpin the confidence, or maybe it's an XLM Stellar Ledger, but a ledger, I believe, holding assets that are immutable, that the world can see, will prove that that value is there for that dollar. And that dollar could be a privately, prudentially regulated stablecoin, right? Hell, for that matter, it could be XRP if you wanted it to be. But the truth is, no one's done the work on the back end the way Ripple has to put on-demand liquidity, which is just simply known as Ripple payments now, plugged into 90% of the FX market. No one has done that level of extensive work. And I firmly believe that's the reason why. We will see. Until then, I hope you're getting your tickets to the largest XRP conference in the world, May 3rd, May 4th, 2024. People have been buying tickets all leading up to Christmas and coming through it. I tell you what a great gift it has made. I've gotten tons of messages right here. The tickets are flying off the shelf, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll tell you something, if I could just scroll down here and show you, Quincy Jones is going to be joining us again. You aren't going to believe the talk he's about to have. Eleanor Tarrant from Fox will be with us. Honorable Chris Giancarlo is with us from the Digital Dollar Project. We got Jeremy Hogan, virtual appearance. Uphold will be there, and so many more, like Perry and Boring, Chamber of Digital Commerce. You're not going to believe the people that we have lined up, and these are just to name a few. Go get your ticket. There's 128 days left, but I guarantee you there will be a lot less days left that these tickets will be available, because this event is going to sell out. I can already see from the pace of the sales, you will not have 128 days to get your tickets. I'm just being honest. It's not hype. I'm just trying to let you know. I don't want to see anybody miss the opportunity. And then you can also join the fundraiser dinner, the Future of Digital Asset Benefit Dinner, which is going to help raise money for the Chamber of Digital Commerce to continue to take the fight in such a critical time that we're in right now, to make sure that digital assets broadly do not become gutted from what they truly can do for the world and everyone in it. No doubt about it. Make sure you join us in the Freedom Zone, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting ready to take this fight to another level. We're going to show you exactly what the next plan is of one of the most evil organizations coming after our food supply. It is disgusting, but it's a fact. And if they're fighting to do it, we're going to fight to try to stop them, because that's how it works around here. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. I'll catch all of you on the next one.